Bing. Blessings. Today is November 13th, 2024. It is 7:59 a.m. here in Waco, Texas. Just got done playing basketball. About to go to the gym to get some weights. I'm drinking this pre-workout called Bucked Up, and it's kind of wild, but I like it. I think it gives a little extra pump, a little extra zest. Been adding creatine. I don't think I've done creatine since I was like 18. Just wanted to do a quick little like check-in. I feel like it's been very wild past few days. And the election just happened, and I feel like I've just been processing a lot. I feel like we've all been processing a lot. I've had some very strange experiences in the past few days, though. Got a DM from a friend this morning, and it was like a different person took over his phone and was saying just like really mean, hyper aggressive stuff that was like very almost like power hungry. And I was like, whoa. And it kind of just put this in a knot in my stomach, because I was like, whoa, what the hell? I kind of felt like it was like a drunk ambition text, but it took some shots at some loved ones. And I was like, what the fuck? And yesterday, all I'll say is I had this experience with a mentor of someone I look up to. And there was this totally disorienting experience where it's like they lost their footing while we were in a container that was clear on its intention and what it was for. And then I all of a sudden was like, am I needing to step in? This is my teacher, this is my mentor, this is someone I look up to. And I saw in the moment, my mentor needs a mentor. And it was a strange feeling, but it's like that silent whisper where spirit is just inviting you to step into the shoes of who you came here to be. It's the silent invitation. It's the silent moment where you know what you need to do. And you can walk away and you can step into it. And what ended up happening from that is the same thing I've been processing with the election. And it's such this nuanced, subtle dimension that I don't know many. I think of 3 people in my life that I can think of who have the ability to hold this position in their consciousness and in their identity that I feel also called to hold on this topic of like, who'd you vote for and what do you and it's not even like what I believe about Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Trump or Republican or Democrat, or it's like all of these words and icons, it's like they get clicked into this grid, which is really a linear line of polarization and duality, and the Republican, the Democratic thing. And I have some philosophical processes that I'm honestly happy about, with like, what does the Democratic Party stand for, and what has happened to them over the past 100 years? What is the Republican Party really about? What do they stand for, and how have they augmented over the past 100 years? I don't claim to know everything. I'm not like a political science major or something like that, but I'm an ontologist and a shamanic, yogic metaphysician, and my study is spirit. My study is how spirit manifests and anchors in the physical world. And this thing that happened yesterday with this someone I look up to, and it's like the same thing with the election and with people's reaction to the election. It's like as soon as that polarity occurs, even if I, as my own social identity, could identify with a side and genuinely see, like, yeah, that's definitely the right way, not that way. Even if I could, and I do, I have this feeling of resistance to it because I see the volatility and this rigidity and of violence that occurs in this hyper-identification within that polarization of specifically the political identity spectrum. And my feeling is like, I'm not interested in wedging into that. And then it's like a period. It's like my heart wants to hold the space so that I can have conversation with both sides to understand where they're coming from. And I think there's something very mystical about this Donald Trump character. And like that by itself probably now lets you know maybe where I stand. But again, the people that are identified in this democratic liberal orientation, it's like that's a good idea. The liberalization or the liberation of humanity is a good idea. It's a good idea. It's that, you know, the conservative ideals have touched pollution. Liberal ideals have touched pollution. But on the grand spectrum, liberal ideals have gotten really wild and associated with an intensification of polarity on that side. And then the media is largely become liberal. And in that hyper liberalization, it's like a volume meter that got ramped up. And even if it was a good song, it's like now it's just too loud. It's like it's blaring, it's peaking the levels, there's a distortion occurring. And someone like Rudolf Steiner comes to mind, Ken Wilber comes to mind, Terence McKenna comes to mind, because there's the Christos in the center, and there's Ahriman and Lucifer on the other wings. And instead of just a dualistic polarity, my system senses the triangulation of the kind of trident-shaped movement of humanity. And when we're in central upright integration, and it feels like a holistic model, it feels like sturdy, steady, not too exaggerated really in any direction, but it is towards the liberation while maintaining a certain degree of moral intact, like philosophy of, it's not just about morality, but it's really about an integral approach, which means the whole thing with the gender stuff, the whole thing with the female, that's such a wild feeling of like people, you know, like abortion should be allowed for everyone. And then we're arguing about that as a topic. And somehow and like gun rights as a topic, and arguing about the topic, women's rights as a topic, then arguing about the topic. It's like women should totally have the ability to do whatever they want with their body. And what is the mechanism of abortion as a second kind of, as a response to sex? And what is our relationship as a culture with sex that has now caused this feeling of, entitlement to a technique for aborting a baby? And what about that philosophy is the same Why is that in the same department of those seemingly who are on the side of giving? And again, this is like an extreme thing, but it's nudged up against less extreme things, so it makes it very difficult to discern the difference between those extremists and the more neutralists. And then there's that emotional reaction, and then you get lost in the response, and then now you're not responding to the topic, now you're responding to the tribalism. And I feel like I've seen that same thing with Trump. He's like a very polarizing character. He's a reality TV person and a businessman that has like the CEO character almost. Talk about the volume knob. It's almost like that volume knob is like ramped up on certain factors of the character that is the CEO. But it's also in the CEO. A CEO is kind of like a father figure, and a father figure has a masculine embodiment that is discerning and kind of sure of itself, and to some degree is integral. Now, there's so many things that get said about Trump that I don't see it. I don't get it. I get it. That's the thing what I'm talking about. I do get it. I get where that comes from. But it doesn't feel like when it's reacting at Trump, it's not actually reacting at Trump. It's reacting to, let me reset. When human beings seem to have this very visceral reaction of negative polarity towards Trump and what Trump represents, it doesn't feel as much as it being about who he is as a human being as much as what it represents in its distorted polarity that the liberal media has created, almost like a thought form in the collective that as like a vibrational wall of illusion causes everyone on this side to see this wall as opposed to the characters that make him good. And I've heard that similar idea of, well, therefore isn't the right seeing that same distortion wall about the left in someone like Joe Biden or someone like Kamala Harris? And it's like, yeah, but why doesn't that apply? Why does someone like Kamala Harris seem to not have like a structural skeleton of philosophical sturdiness? It's like it's not clear where she stands. Trump, it's almost so clear where he stands. Again, someone like Joe Biden, it's like, I think I heard someone say that knows more than me. They were saying how in the, I don't know, way back in the day, he was like pretty straightforward, clear cut kind of guy. I don't know all of the details about it, but there's obviously been this mental deterioration. And then it's like, what are we talking about? Character qualities and like senile versus over the top, you know. And I see Trump, I see someone that's like silly, but it's associated with right-wing ideals, and right-wing ideals in their distorted presentation in the liberal media has been associated with Nazism and fascism and racism. And I have not seen any racism. That's not true. I've seen racism on both sides, but racism is just pigmented tribalism. That's a whole huge entire topic by itself. Something I've been processing, trying to have conversations with people about it when I can, but what is racism? What is it? What is going on when that happens? And my studies and my process has led me to see it's really a tribalist reaction that in the chakra system, Manipura, yellow chakra, in the solar plexus, has the identity lodged in the body in a way that it's not into Anahata heart-based Christ consciousness, unity identification. So it's in separation emphasis identification. And in that emphasis, it has to grab onto the most nearby containers to identify being inside of. And it's like tailgating consciousness when when I look at it. It's like you have to either look at your generation and you identify within a generation, and other generations are not your generation. You look at your race, so what is race though? So you look at pigment or your genetic heritage, and then you say, okay, that's us, and then you put a circle around it, and that's a container. So then everyone that's other than that is other than us. Anytime that usness against themness occurs in the field, that to me is third density tribalism. And Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Vedantic teachings, and the Law of One, the teachings of Ra, point at that 7 density framework in a really clear way. Ken Wilber talks about it in a really clear way as well. And yeah, back to Rudolf Steiner, there's this understanding that the age of Aquarius is coming out of the age of Pisces, almost like rolling hills and waves, literally, and yugas paired like that as well. And so the age of Aquarius is really the age of Archangel Michael's designation. Like, he's paired with that. And with the quote-unquote resurrection of the Christos, which is Krishna consciousness, which is unity field awareness, or sameness emphasis, as opposed to separation emphasis. The Christos has a bodyguard frequency, and that's Michael. And the 4 angelic corners, Michael, Raphael, Uriel, and Gabriel, I know there's like a way to talk about them a little bit more soundly, but like I know Uriel has a role, Gabriel has a role, but I know Michael personally, he's the one that has kind of come to me and shown me who he is. And I understand it as he's the bodyguard of Christ. For me, it feels like almost a brother frequency of Hanuman, but also very connected to Vishnu and one of Vishnu's forms, Narasimha. And I feel that Trump is connected to this Vishnu and also a Shiva frequency that some can see as the destroyer, but it's really the warrior frequency in battle. It's gonna look dualistic, but it stands for the mitigation of distortion. And so it's not really at war with left and right, it's at war with a good and evil. And then you talk about good and evil being perceived in different angles from the left and the right. Well, then you have to talk about everyone's family's philosophy. As they come out of adolescence into adulthood, their tribalistic framework is largely coding and codifying everything that they see in the physical world. So Trump isn't Trump, Donald is not Donald. He's a white man that represents this red stuff. Kamala and Joe aren't Kamala and Joe. They're these people that represent these blue things. And these blue things are pushing this frequency and this spectrum. And it's like, just on the mathematics of what is that as a topic, that bright light wanting to liberate the... I mean, type in the comments what you feel like is going on. And I'm just processing out loud, so if you're watching still, thanks. And also, yeah, it's a wild world. But the Luciferic light is heading in that direction. The transhumanist stuff, yes, but also at the same time, the world is evolving and certain things do need to adjust. But it's about the way in which they adjust. It's not the what as much as it's the how. And man, I get it. I mean, colonialism is real. It has incredible traumas. Unconscious masculine distortions are real. There's plenty of traumas. Unconscious feminine distortion is real. It has plenty of traumas. Whiteness has traumas, blackness has traumas, but whiteness and blackness and pigment, it's not even real. It's all pigments of brown. And that to me is this incredible reframe, because it's like black and white, It's like, well, hold on. It's not red and blue. What about purple? It's not black and white. What about gray and brown? These bridge lenses. They're like lenses that you can see the duality through, that bridge the dualistic polarities, that in their own moment begin to heal the topic by engaging it through looking at that gray area in the in-between. And yeah, I'm looking for people to talk to about this, but I haven't felt it that often. And I don't know, there's such a pressure on social media to like, get to the point. I love Joe Rogan, man. 3-hour podcasts are now like a norm. How cool is that? But if you're watching this, you're measuring Rocco's relevance in your life of whether or not it's worth watching based on a beautifully selfish compass of if it's relevant for your life or not, which is based on your sense of if it's related to your growth, for your deepest fulfillment and your highest calling that you came here for. And that's great. Everybody should be measuring it for themselves. I suppose one of the main things I'm noticing is just so many of us are every day hijacked in ways that it has we're not in the driver's seat of tending to if it is related to our highest growth. We're just caught in the entanglement of tribalistic consciousness, tribalistic solar plexus based third density consciousness. And when that happens, we're not in the driver's seat. We're not in conscious response. We're in a reactivity that is not in spirit. It's in the material world. And if we're possessed by the material world, that's a pretty archetypically speaking, that is what it is. And the Christos is the savior of the soul from the fallen place. The Lucy light attempts to take that ability to save it, and it further distorts it towards service to self. All of this is largely imperceivable and cannot be seen by 99% of humanity. Maybe I'm wrong on that, on the number, the percentage number there, but seems like most. I just got this ink. Fun. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Hey, if you have any thoughts on this and you're still watching 23 minutes in, God bless you. Namaste. Would love to talk about it with you. Let's do an Instagram live. DM me or write comments here. Sending you love. It's such a weird world out there. Sending you love. Hope you're well. Hope your family's well. Hope everything's good in your world. God bless you. Good luck out there. It's weird, right? Weird times.